All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines. We have a really tech-heavy edition this time. Some things that we called last time because yesterday we had to, or last week we had to do it on Thursday, and we're doing it on Friday this time. So just a little bit different when it comes to timing. But yeah, we talked a lot of tech. Some of the things we were right about, some of the things we were a little wrong about, but it'll be cool to get into it. So Steve, I'm going to keep making the meme till they stop being a play. I can see the nuclear stocks are rocketing, so you're probably having a great week there.
It's yeah, my 401k retirement account I was trading in just basically shot to all-time high. It looks kind of like SMR. Thankfully, due to those, I mean, the audience here knows we've been pounding the table on this story since basically the beginning of that move down there in the three stocks, SMR,
Yeah, all the way down here
NNE.
at 6. Yeah, I remember 6 was my first buy, so I'd be kind of right in this area. Yeah.
Well, for the last 2 months, yeah, NNE and OKLO, those three are like the three horsemen of the modular nano nuclear energy. Oh, geez, that one didn't
Hmm.
see that one coming. However, I did well. I came in long all three of those names 3 days ago on that big move where they basically all finished the day up 30%. And trust me, I didn't take them home. I took a little bit home, but I was just having the most fun as a trader, laddering out limit order sell. And they just kept reaching up and dinging the ding. And I'd look down and just chunks of just green. It was a fabulous day.
That's good. And i- for the news part of it and what people are looking at, it's all the same stuff that we've been talking about with nuclear for a while. Is that the AI play, as everyone uses the proxy for NVIDIA, the AI chip names, it's still doing okay, right? NVIDIA's at all-time highs. We can see it's been a couple months, hasn't really done too much. But what a lot of investors and traders are thinking of is saying, okay, AI is going to be pretty big. Looks like NVIDIA's got the chip side of things, the picks and shovels handled. But now what, right? So the next line, and I always like to use a perfect example of a very famous trade that Warren Buffett did when wind power was getting big. Instead of investing in the wind power companies, he bought a bunch of railroads, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, that's the only way to ship these giant blades around the country." And it's the same thing. It's looking for these offshoots of potential winners and potential sectors based off what this current play is doing. So, if AI is going to be big, it's going to need a lot of power. People are moving to nuclear to do it. So this is still an AI play. It's just an AI kind of adjacent down the road type play. So SMR, even some of the more traditional
Yeah.
ones, like I saw CEG. What was that other one? Yeah, CEG's up.
BW,
BXT, XT.
BWXT. Yep.
Yeah, that's just been like that's an amazing trend. It's only 20% a gain, but this is a massive company, and for a massive company to
So
be up like that, it's
what's
amazing.
basically happening is people have already seen the road work in NVIDIA. They've already seen the map of the fervor in which people will pay up to buy into this story. And so the whole nano nuke is really a side adjunct to the same thing. So I think people have this euphoric confidence playing these things, having watched the video for the last year, knowing this is just going to be the next thing. And so there's a bit of that mixed in there too, I think.
Yeah, and it's we talk about this in technical analysis all the time, is that rotation, right? Rotation is the lifeblood of a bull market. If I make a couple $1 million in Nvidia, if it's a bear market, I'm going to take that money, I'm going to move to cash. If it's a bull market, I'm going to take that money, I'm going to buy something else. So it looks like what's happening is, right, people made a lot of money. They did very well with names like Nvidia and names like SMCI and all of these first derivative plays on AI, and now they're taking that money and they're playing these second derivative plays on AI. So, it, when is it going to stop? I don't know. It seems like it's one of those things that it was great to be early onto the story. I personally wouldn't be buying any of these now. Wait for some sort of dip or pullback. We don't know how long the story is going to go, but it's starting to, the whole shoeshine boy indicator, right? We're starting to see
Mhm.
everywhere, every news source I look at, it says, "Oh, of course we're going to be using nuclear for AI," and nobody was saying that 3 to 6 months ago, right? So it's starting to get out there a little more. Doesn't mean it's already priced in, but I think these things are getting slightly long in the tooth. So me as basically a holder of SMR, I still have a little chunk, and I'm kind of holding that as like a lotto ticket. I'm out most of my position. and then just whatever happens happens. If it goes to become an uh, yeah, the way I look at it is that, right, it's a $2 billion company right now. $10 billion company, maybe. $100 billion company,
Hmm.
probably not. $1 trillion company, probably not. But a $10 billion company is still a 5x from here, right? That doesn't seem too far. So what I've done is I've just sold enough that if this thing reverses and comes back to my entry, I'm okay. I've made my money from it, and I'm kind of hands off the wheel at this point with a little bit. I'm just kind of like our buddy Andy says. He always says he's tucking it away for his grandkids, and then usually comes
Hmm.
back later that day and says that he's out already.
Um, I was thinking while you spoke, we might as well just pivot into the AI sector as well. IONQ, look at that thing. It's just ripping. I think it's kind of playing catch up to Palantir. And
IonQ.
again, these are companies that are in IONQ. These are,
Yeah,
look at that. So these are enterprise companies that basically, like Palantir, come in and say, give me all the data you have, data, spreadsheets, emails, everything, and it compiles it and spits it out and goes, okay, we suggest you could be doing this better for your company to run efficiency and more profit, et cetera, et cetera. Palantir, same thing. AI, the company AI, so some of these second tier names looks kind of good. See how it's just kind of coiled there? It's right at the 200. It's trying to do something. So I'm bringing this up because I bought a third tier here, BBAI, Black Bear. This is, a wannabe Palantir, a wannabe IONQ, but it's yet another enterprise solution, and the 3 days of
good
pullback
chart
is what
though.
was just, I literally bought market on open because I thought those three red candles of pullback was going to be enough. And it's sitting right on the 200 day as a base now. So I'm going to take this one home over the weekend.
Yeah, and this is right. This is the cycle, and I think that's probably the best takeaway for the audience is that there will be another cycle that comes that's not AI at some point, and it'll be the same thing. You'll have uh, Bitcoin, I think, is a perfect example, right? First, you had Bitcoin, and that was a massive mover, and then you had all the derivatives of Nvidia did very well then because that's how you mine Bitcoin way back before asyncs and all these weird things. But um, so then you have the second derivative play, and then you had all these offshoots, these different coins. So the people who are hard focused on that first thing, the Nvidia, I don't think there's Nvidia. I'm going to say this one probably will, but Nvidia can't double again. It can't become a $6 trillion company. That would just be. I think that's you're bigger than most countries at that point. Um, but doesn't mean that there's not plays to be made. So what happens is we go down the cap scale, and usually when a lot of these really junky ones start running, there's some really good money to be had there. And I've noticed it's usually kind of the last dying breath of this
Mm,
particular cycle, and then it'll be on to the next thing after that. So something like BBAI, the risk reward that you're talking about here, Steve, right? Like I'm sure if it breaks, that prior candle and closes below that, to call it like a buck 50 worse, that would probably be your out. And just look at this chart. If this even, you know, challenged this old high here, right? That's $5 a share, right? So they're junky, they're little names. They probably won't end up being anything, but they're great trading vehicles kind of while the getting's good.
yep.
All right, so on to some more tech. Let's start with this Tesla. So Um, I don't know if you watch anything from it, but it was an interesting event, and the video I saw from it was very interesting. So I follow this guy. I think I've sent him a couple of videos in Slack. He's like the biggest tech reviewer guy in the world, is MKBHD, and he does tech and he does cars and his whole thing. And they invited him because he's the biggest tech reviewer in the world. So of course you're going to invite him to look at it. And he noticed some weird stuff going on. And he's not a big conspiracy guy, but obviously when you were talking to some of these robots, it was definitely just a person on a speaker on the other end. It wasn't an
Mm,
actual robot, and I can link his video down below. He talked about it. He's like, it was too fast. It was human. It was
mhm,
definitely not an AI, which Elon was trying to pitch that these are AIs. So what was happening is it looked like all of these robots, his like personal size robots, were walking around serving drinks and all of that. And what it turns out, in his theory, and a lot of other people are thinking too, is that these robots had scripted movements, and then there was somebody talking for them on the other end. So it opens up the question with a lot of these other things where, uh, the robo taxi that he got to drive and I got to see with no steering wheel or anything in it, it drove a predefined route, but was that also scripted? So we don't know exactly how much is going, but The basic premise for those who miss it, he wants to sell a $30,000 two-door cab that has no steering wheel, no way to interact. You just use your app, you get inside it, and away you go. And then this big honking thing that everyone memed the hell out of. I don't know if you saw this, Steve. It looked like a toaster. It's a really dumb
Well,
looking
I'll tell
thing,
you what
but
it is. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's he's going back to the Art Deco, and if you look back at the old trains back in the 1930s during the Art Deco
yes,
period, it
like
was a style
steampunky kind
of
of.
well, but after steampunk, but Art Deco has a certain style of lines and curves, and you juxtapose his 12-person cab with a Art Deco train. You search Art Deco train and you see
Just
some
trying to find
images,
the yeah,
and
this thing.
yeah, so that looks like a 1930s futuristic Art Deco train that we actually built. So my first observation is he's creating that type of stylish, which is pretty cool. The second thing, notice the wheels on the cab. You know why
Yeah.
they're like that? They're solid rubber. You can't drive into downtown San Francisco and expect to escape without your tires being slashed. So
Well,
those are
that was
literally
another
defensive
thing
tires. Yeah.
that he actually noticed in these videos, that he thought was weird. That's painted. So it's got a hubcap on it, but this white around the tire, he zoomed in with his camera to show. He just painted it. He just took a
Yeah.
regular tire and he just painted it.
Well,
So
whatever they did, they've tried to make it vandalism proof. That's my
yeah.
point.
But it's one of those things, and this is exactly how Elon works, right? Is he comes out and he promises this thing, and then he says it's going to be next year, and it ends up being 20 years from now. So it'll be interesting when it happens. Of course, there's going to be a whole bunch of regulatory hurdles, but the idea is this thing is even going to charge wirelessly. So you're going to put down a little pad in your driveway, and it's just going to drive over the driveway and just charge, kind of like, I don't know if you do the same thing with your phone. You got a wireless charging pad, you put it on and charge your phone. So it's very, very interesting. It was very underwhelming based off of a lot of what I saw, because there was so much scripted. There was so much, if you zoomed in and looked under the hood and behind the hype a little bit, like again, the painted tires that are supposed to have a big metal thing on it, but right, this thing is metal, but that thing is painted, and the price is reflecting exactly
Can I
that,
can I
right?
make a point here? It sounds like you're kind of nitpicking a little bit at his technology, and I'm going to counter something with you with a fact, and you can Google this. You saw the news where I think he put together 200,000 NVIDIA GPUs in 19 effing days when it normally takes 4 years. Go ahead and Google that.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm kind of snickering here as you're picking apart his technology, but the guy knows how to get shit done. He landed his rocket on the first attempt. He knows how to get people to work together. So there's kind of a interesting uh,
No, and I'm not
dichotomy here. I'm not quite sure where you're going with that.
well, no, I'm not saying that he's not going to do this, but what I'm saying is that his goal of 2026, 2027, based off what everyone is seeing, is not going to happen. And he
But
has a
what I just
history
said,
of
what did I just
this,
say?
right?
He did 4 years of GPU, 200,000 GPUs. He got them all aligned in 19 days. Now, he had 24/7 workers, but he knows how to get shit done. That's my
Right, but
point.
he's also been promising full self-driving car on Tesla, or full self-driving on his Tesla cars for I think 8 years, and it's not out yet. You
Hmm.
can go back 10 years ago and see him talking about, yeah, very soon you're gonna have full self-driving cars, and that was like 8 years ago. So there is a lot of history. Again, eventually he gets it done, but there is a lot of history of trial and error before it gets there. And that's basically my point, is that's what I think the market is pricing in right now, is they took a look at it and said, this is interesting, but how close is it, right? How close is it to um, being in fruition? And leading up to it, and we were talking about this last week about how the chart actually looked pretty good. That news came out, we gapped down pretty substantially, and we haven't really been able to get going ever since. So I think it's going to be one of those things that maybe next year they see version 2 of the taxi, they get a little bit more promised. The other complaint that I saw brought up a lot is just regulatory. I guess some places like California are pretty liberal and open about allowing this kind of new technology to drive. I guess some of the other states, I think someone mentioned Texas in general, is like completely kiboshing self-driving cars. Like, so it's where are you going to be able to have a fully self-driving car? Because again, the biggest complaint doesn't have a steering wheel, so it doesn't have any ability for the user to step in and
That's
take
scary.
control. So it's like that is going to be a big hurdle, which again, I'm sure he'll get through eventually, but the market's just trying to figure out when. How long will it take to I could argue that based off of what he is, a lot of the distracted driving you see on the road right now, I think there's arguments to be made that robots already drive better. But when are you going to get that to pass all the legal and the government and the bureaucracy and through the hoops so that you can actually put one of these on the road with, again, no human interaction at all? That's the biggest thing, is that I guess more and more are okay with some sort of, you know, assisted, as long as you have your hands on the wheel, the car can drive itself, that type of thing. But yeah, I'll show you the video. It's wild to see. He just gets in and there's nothing. There's no brake, there's no steering wheel, there's
No,
no
I've seen it.
even
Yeah, it's.
like,
I don't
oh,
know if I'd get in one of those. Yeah, I mean,
irks me out. It's just like I think I would feel better even if there was just like a big button that said, right, stop, and you could just
yeah.
hit that, but there's just nothing. You're just it's I
I,
hope the robot's going to do nice things to me. So gap down
I'm more
here.
interested in the robot. Yeah,
Well,
the thirty
yeah,
thousand
if it,
dollar house butler.
oh, give me, if that ends up working, give me that.
It
I got to
is.
mow the
It's gonna
lawn
work.
later.
Did you
I
watch
could
how? Did
just
you watch how he charged himself? He walks and he backs into the wall and he goes, oh,
the
charge.
and again, as much as I've been saying, hey, this stuff looks unfinished, that is a brilliant idea, and it's an idea that no one else had, because everyone's trying to purpose fit robots for different tasks. But what Elon's basically saying is, we built this world for humans, so if the robot's going to do a lot of different tasks, it's got to look like a human, right?
And that's why, and that's why he just built an array of 200,000 NVIDIA GPUs to process every bit of information on the road, watching people cross the street, watching human interactions.
Mhm.
He's going to take that bit of AI and put it into the robots. It's crazy.
Well, he also mentioned, and this made perfect sense to me, is that if you have that robot and your place allows self-driving, maybe you don't even need a self-driving car. You just tell the
Right. The
robot to get
robot's going
behind
to
the
drive you.
car and it can grab the, right. Again, I'm looking at that out my window, a giant lawn that I need to go mow. How cool would
It'll do it.
it be if I'm like,
Version one.
yeah,
Version one. It'll do it.
yeah, go get it, go push it. So it'll be interesting, but gap down here. I think I know what you're gonna say, Steve, but for me, it's the same way. As this base is interesting, but we've got a lot of resistance overhead. I would like to see either more time go by. We've got earnings in 3 days, so I wouldn't take a trade before that anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, if we start to get into the gap, maybe there's a little bit of a shot to be taken here. But when I was looking at the weekly chart of this thing, just or monthly chart, what a mess this has just been in for ages, right? $400 to $100, massive range, and just chop, chop, chop. So I want to see something to resolve this chart one way or another before I start to get involved personally. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think of the chart?
I think it's just another holding pattern. What you can't see is the 50-day. So Tesla is just kind of hunkered under that 50-day.
Yeah.
And the 10 and coming down across it. I mean, technically it's just in a holding pattern, but it's kind of neutral to me. I'll put it at that. Bullish. I'm long-term bullish, as we talked about. It's not a car company we discovered. It's an AI company. So
Same. Long term bullish. I think you need to get above, this prior range. It's got like 275, 300. I think if it's starting to get up there and it's starting to be strong and break through that, then maybe you got a shot at 400, and through that, who knows? But you're just looking at this monthly chart. It's such a slop fest that I don't really want to get involved too much. Now, one thing that is breaking out to new all-time highs, and this is going to be a little pat on the back we have, was this Netflix. So they reported earnings yesterday. They beat by 5% on EPS. What they're really finding is, this was a very controversial thing that Netflix did. Uh, their crackdown on password sharing. Everybody was worried that all of a sudden, and I was using my sister's Netflix for 20 years now, and or however long Netflix has been out, I've been using her password, and eventually I just logged on one day and it said no. And of course, that was the time that the kid wanted to watch his show that he watches about trucks building stuff or whatever. So I go and I buy it. And they're finding that conversion is actually working way better than they thought. And they introduced an ad tier model, a lower price model, and that's
mhm.
doing well. So,
And as
yeah,
we said
there's,
last week, this is just generally a recession-proof stock because people are just going to get their entertainment at home and sit at home and Chinese takeout and Netflix and chill.
Well, and it was the same. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying for the ad model, it was like $6 a month. I went to the $10 a month, and I look at it, I'm like $10 a month. I was like, every time I go to Starbucks, it costs 30, $40, right? So
Hmm.
if you look at the value for time, even though I don't really watch not a lot of Netflix stuff, I look at it as doing a podcast right now. I need the kid to sit out there and be quiet. I'm going to put on his Paw Patrol and let him go. That's worth $10, right? So you're right. It's just because it's such a low price product. I think it will certainly be fine. But gapping up, hitting new all time highs. For me, I really really like this chart. I don't think it will play nice, but what I would like this chart to do is just to chill around this 750 area
Chill.
for a couple days. I didn't do that on purpose, but yeah, the Netflix and chill. But chop around 750. Give me a couple days. Give me some time for some moving averages to catch up, a base to build, and then I would buy Netflix through all time highs, I think.
I agree.
All right. Now, on the other end of the price spectrum, iPhone 16 sales way bigger than people thought. And this is actually kind of interesting watching this chart go today. Let's go quickly because I was doing Trader TV this morning, and I get most of my news when I'm in the Trader TV green room. And they were talking about it way up here. Like this is a pre-market chart. So you can see
Hmm.
gapped up. Then this is when that news came out and rallied all day. And then the market opened, and now it's been weak ever since. So again, we're recording this around lunchtime, a little before lunchtime. Uh, Seems like some people are selling. So the big takeaways from this article is one, they were selling way more than the street thought when it comes to iPhones, and they're selling the upper tier. So you've got your iPhone, you got your iPhone Pro. They're selling way more of that Pro model, which is like with most things, when you have a Pro premium type model, there's higher margins, and there's higher bandwidth there as well. So selling doing great with that, way more than people thought. However, and this is, I guess, the thing that's worrying me is that you think that would be the news that you would need to kind of take out this high at 240 or so. So far, you had a little bit of a gap that was pretty significant, and then it's been kind of selling from there. So, what do you think, Steve?
Um, Let me look at it on my charts just so I can line up my stuff. It's just drifting higher. The last 4 days there, you can see has just been a dip down into the gap and then turning back up. Yeah, there you go. You took it over.
Mhm.
What I'm talking about is this right here, new all-time high. And a lot of times, all-time highs, they just kind of back and fill. Very healthy right into the 230 level, solid as can be, giant pivot level. And then this turning back up, I call that the horseshoe. It can happen on a daily chart. It's extremely bullish. Backing and filling a gap and moving to new highs is extremely bullish.
Yeah, and that news lines up with it. I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, if this closes red today after that news, I think I'm going to look at that and we'll go here. I'm going to look at that as some idea of maybe some more and even broader sentiment, because you're right, the chart looks amazing, but generally speaking, this is what surprised me. Is generally people there's not Apple is so coveraged that or so covered. There's not a lot of surprise, right? They have spies inside of their factory to try to figure out what they're doing next, and it's the most covered stock on planet Earth, and for them to surprise that big on sales, and if we don't get any follow through from that, I don't know. I'm not going to short it, but I think that might be a little worrisome that maybe something else is going on. There's some profit taking or something happening here because yeah, if you're selling by 20%, then beating by 20%, you'd think there'd be something going on there, but not a whole lot happening. So, do you have any ideas or anything to leave the folks with?
No, just kind of what I mentioned earlier that those AI stocks are shaping up again. I'm long BBAI going into the weekend. C1 AI, C3 AI, I think is the AI symbol. Those are two second tier stocks that could start catching some, like you said, rotation in the next week. So keep an eye on those.
I want to mention just quickly Bitcoin and Ethereum. Uh, this range right here, and if we had a full Bitcoin chart, it's a massive looking cup and handle that looks amazing. This range has been problematic to say the least, for a lot of traders. A lot of times it kind of threatens to break new all-time highs and then fails, and then threatens to break new all-time highs and fails over and over again. This time maybe we're getting a little pop here, so maybe we'll get a push through that. Um,
Yeah.
the it's looking interesting to me. It's looking like this could be the
69. It wants to shoot for 70 again, maybe over the weekend. We'll see
and
on
that
the
would be new
actual
all-time
price.
highs. I'm even
Hmm.
seeing, I'm just looking down because I bought
Yeah,
some Ethereum.
Mara. Well, I was looking at stocks too. Mara and Riot, those are blockchain stocks. Those are real hot today. So these seem to be echoing the sentiment of Bitcoin.
Yeah, Mara is very interesting with its 26% short float. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And
And
Riot's really had a parabolic week.
yeah, Riot with
Yeah.
18%. MSTR is easier to trade now after their split. This is just, in my opinion, a leveraged Bitcoin play at this point. So it's perking up as well. So just a lot of things happening. And for those who haven't traded crypto for any given time, it's always like a Sunday morning. It's always a weird time over the
Mhm.
weekend that everything's
Sneak
closed,
attack.
and you get this big move one way or another, and then the markets open and try to catch up on Monday. So I'm just gonna say, watch crypto in the week. The full disclosure, I've had Bitcoin for years, kind of locked away somewhere. I might be pulling some of that out, and I have some of these trades going on. But yeah, there's a lot going on with Bitcoin. And I just did a basic cup and handle target, old school technical analysis, right? You take the base of the cup and you attach that to the breakout. It's $320,000 a coin. So not saying that I would hold for that, and not saying that that's going to happen anytime soon, but new all-time high break, especially if it happens over the weekend when no one's paying attention, could be a little shake up for Monday. All right, Steve, another good one in the
Hmm.
books. Um, yeah, I appreciate everyone.
Hmm.
Again, if you've been here this long, give a like, give a sub, give a retweet, all those things, and I'll talk to you soon.